trustee tonight, I'm told. So I think it's very kind, and again, let's try to be mindful whether you agree or disagree. Please breathe instead of that would be much appreciated. And please help me welcome Karen Don. Thank you.
It's not entirely true that nobody from the organizations working on it are here represented, because Dawn Watch is certainly working on it. So I'm working pretty hard on Part 2. And anybody who has read Naked the Monkey knows that I make it pretty clear that cage-free eggs are not humane, and that a lot of humane labeling is a scam. So I agree with an awful lot with a lot of what, with most of what Sean had to say, actually. And I'm not a big supporter, certainly not a supporter of humane meat. But I am working hard on Part 2 for a couple of reasons. One thing Sean mentioned was he showed us the language and said that would mean that only one animal, would have to get up at a time, etc., etc. I didn't actually ever sort of looked at it that way and sat there and analyzed the language. I just know that similar bans have passed elsewhere, and the outcome has been, well, in Florida the ban passed, and the outcome was that all of the crated farm, the sows, this is to do with sows, and all of the farms that had sows were supposed to be phased out over the next 10 years, and of course that's something that often welfare get trouble for, is accepting 10-year phase-out periods. They all voluntarily were gone within a year, so we didn't get situations where one animal could get up at a time. We had all the farms gone as soon as the ban passed, because the producers saw the writing on the wall. And so we're sort of looking at what history has to say, and hoping for similar situations in California. The only reason that Laurie said I courageously agreed to speak on this last minute, and the reason I'm a little bit bummed that it was thrown at me last minute, is because I'm not prepared. I have written extensively about, not Prop 2 in particular, but welfare campaigns. And it's funny, it's a section of the book that I played with whether or not I should include it, because, my book is really for beginners and this is kind of more inside baseball, but tonight we're playing inside baseball. So I think what I'm going to do is, because I didn't have a chance to really prepare what I wanted to say, I am going to read that section of that book, which really goes into why people like me, who do believe the whole world is sweetly and compassionately headed for veganism soon, still support welfare campaigns like Prop 2. I start with the idea, people often refer to, other movements. And I look at Amnesty International, and I say that when people argue that welfare campaigns hamper the idea of abolitionism, even if that were so, can you imagine Amnesty International campaigning against laws that forbid the torture of political prisoners, because the prisoners shouldn't be in jail at all, and because their case will be stronger if the torture continues? Assuming that animal rights activists would attempt to negotiate the release of any imprisoned colleagues, and would also request warm beds and nourishing vegan food for them, how can we refuse such consideration to the non-humans we volunteer to represent? It's been argued, persuasively in my opinion, that such a stance reduces the animals to objects in service to abolitionist ideology. If we look at the history of social justice movements, we see that improving conditions for the oppressed has not hampered the fight for liberation. While women as a group have yet to earn equal pay for equal work, surely nobody would suggest that granting women the right to vote obstructed the road to eventual social equality. Laws forbidding the beating of slaves came before, not instead of, laws precluding slavery in northern states, and were part of the movement that led to emancipation throughout the United States. That's because, as Robert Cialdini, who I mentioned before, explains, people tend to make consistent choices. The consistency theory is the basis for all foot-in-the-door sales techniques and for animal enterprises' slippery, slow arguments against granting any welfare reforms. When society supports welfare measures aimed at ending some of the most hideous industrial abuse of animals, it acknowledges that animals matter. Consistent with that position, those who've supported those changes are the more likely than others to ponder their personal use of animal products at all. That theory was beautifully exemplified in Elizabeth Davida Rayward's forthright article, An Ambivalent Vegetarian, which was published in Self magazine. She made it clear that learning about slaughterhouse reforms did not ease her conscience when she craved to eat. She wrote of those reforms, quote, "But the need for them made me feel even worse. Clearly these are not dumb, insensible creatures who are oblivious to whether they live or die. Quite the reverse," unquote. People in the food production industries, and they have a strong record of knowing how to shape public opinion, they don't swallow the argument that welfareism hampers abolitionism. An editorial in Feedstuffs, that's the industry magazine, warned readers that the food industry is losing the battle against animal rights activists. The piece listed numerous successful welfare campaigns and then proclaimed, quote, "It's about raising animals for food, and the activist agenda is to end that practice." It'll take decades, but they're the ones who are winning, piece by piece. From his mouth to God's ears. I've no desire to hide my agenda, and I'm happy to admit that I think humans are evolving towards vegetarianism, and I formed that hypothesis partly noting the high proportion of vegetarians amongst history's greatest thinkers, apparently significantly higher than the few percent estimated in the general population. Pythagoras, Plutarch, Leonardo da Vinci, Tolstoy, Twain, Bernard Shaw, Kafka, Einstein, and Gandhi are just a few who come to mind. I see welfare reforms as steps on the way, part of that evolution. Yet, meanwhile, any changes made by anybody can make the world a more compassionate place, and public support for welfare reforms can make a huge positive difference.